Simply economic. Simply economics. Big ideas made small. Everyday money talk for any mind at all. Simply economics. Learn fast, feel smart. One quick listen and you're ready to start.
Imagine your favorite local cafe. You know, the one, right? Like the place with the perfectly dialed in espresso, the barista who actually remembers you prefer oat milk, and those little artisanal pastries sitting in the glass case.
Oh, yeah. Everyone has a spot like that.
Exactly. Now imagine they just sold you a $12 lunch. But before that money even has a chance to hit their register, an invisible hand just reaches in and takes 20% of it.
Right.
And sometimes, depending on the terms, it's even 30%, just gone, siphoned off by the delivery app you use to place the order on your phone.
It is a huge chunk of change.
It really is. I mean, when you hear a number like 30% of gross revenue just vanishing on a single transaction, it sounds completely extreme.
Yeah, totally.
Like, it sounds unsustainable for any business that runs on tight margins. And so the immediate obvious question that pops into your head is just, why don't the cafes just leave these platforms?
Well, it really is the defining question for small businesses right now. And, it is very tempting to look at those massive percentage cuts and just chalk it up entirely to corporate greed.
Right, like they're just the bad guys.
Exactly. Or assume these tech companies are just villainous. But our goal with this deep dive isn't to just point fingers or complain about the fees.
Right, we're going deeper than that today.
We are. We are looking at a massive stack of sources today. We've got economic research papers, market analyses, and some really in-depth restaurant industry reports.
Yeah, the data is super interesting.
It is. And we're doing this to answer one mission, which is decoding the invisible economic forces that dictate the price of our modern convenience.
So it's not just a simple cash grab.
No, not at all. The thesis we are going to explore is that these high fees are not just simple greed. They are the highly predictable, like almost inevitable result of complex market dynamics.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand the fees, we really have to understand the machine generating them, right?
Exactly.
If these apps aren't just simple delivery services, like if they aren't just a digital version of a kid on a bicycle dropping off a pizza, then what exactly are they? Like, what is the actual business model we are looking at here?
So what we are looking at is a fundamental shift in how businesses operate. Delivery apps are what economists call two-sided markets.
Two-sided markets.
Yeah. They are not actually selling a product in the traditional sense. They are selling a connection.
A connection.
Right. They sit squarely between two entirely distinct groups of people. On one hand, you have the customers who are, just sitting on their couches seeking convenience.
That's definitely me on a Friday night.
Right, exactly. And on the other hand, you have the cafes and restaurants who are seeking more orders and more revenue. The platform's entire existence is predicated on being the bridge between them.
Wait, so they don't roast the coffee?
They
don't bake the croissant. They literally just build the bridge.
They build the bridge and then they stand right in the middle of it.
Wow.
Yeah. And the defining characteristic of a two-sided market is that the platform only functions if both sides are present simultaneously.
I mean, that makes sense. A bridge that only connects to one side of the river is totally useless.
Precisely. If an app launches and has, say, thousands of restaurants but zero customers, the restaurants will leave because there's just no revenue to be made. And conversely, if an app has millions of hungry customers but no restaurants to order from, those customers are going to delete the app off their phones immediately.
Yeah, connecting two groups sounds innocent enough, though. It's basically matchmaking.
It is, yeah.
Like it's like opening a digital nightclub. It's only cool if the right DJ, which is the cafes in this case, and the right crowd, the customers both show up.
That's a great way to put it.
But getting both of those groups to show up on opening night seems like a complete logistical nightmare. What happens if one side just decides to stay home?
Well, if one side stays home, the nightclub shuts down completely. In the startup world, bootstrapping a two-sided market is notoriously difficult.
I can imagine. How do they even pull it off?
To get the crowd, you often have to subsidize the cost. You offer massive discounts, free delivery, promos. You're essentially paying people to walk in the door.
Oh, like those $5 off coupons you get when a new app launches.
Exactly. You might even operate at a massive loss for years. But what's fascinating here is what happens when both sides' dues start showing up.
Okay, what happens?
This brings us to the crucial engine behind these platforms, a concept known as network effects.
Network effects. I usually hear that applied to things like social media or telephones.
Right, the classic
Yeah,
examples.
because a telephone is literally a useless piece of plastic if you're the only person on Earth who owns one. But the moment your friend gets one, your telephone inherently doubles in value.
That is the perfect way to look at it. Now, apply that exact mechanism to the delivery app.
Okay.
The more customers that download the app, the more valuable that app becomes to the cafes. They look at this massive pool of hungry people in their city, so they rush to sign up.
Right, because that's where the money is.
Exactly. But as more cafes sign up, the menu selection on the app gets wider and more diverse.
Oh, which makes the app incredibly attractive to new customers.
Yes. Who then download it in droves,
Yes.
which in turn attracts even more cafes.
It's a self-reinforcing cycle. But wait, hold on. If the app only works because everyone uses it, and the more people use it, the stronger it gets, does that mean I'm the problem?
What do you mean?
Like, by opening the app because I'm just too lazy to walk down the street or call the restaurant directly, am I basically voting to lock my local cafe into this system?
Well, the economic breakdown we are looking at doesn't shy away from that reality.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the answer, from a behavioral economics standpoint, is essentially yes. Your desire for convenience, when aggregated with millions of other consumers doing the exact same thing, creates market dominance.
Wow. So we're all just feeding the beast.
You are feeding the network effect. And this is where the dynamic gets absolutely ruthless for competitors.
How so?
If a new, highly ethical, low-fee delivery app tries to launch in your city, they don't just need a better app design. They need to magically materialize millions of users and thousands of restaurants all at once, or neither side will bother checking it.
Because it's not just a competition of who has the better technology. It's a competition of who has the most gravity.
Gravity is a great word for it.
The big platforms pull everything into their orbit, and small competitors just get crushed under the weight of customer acquisition costs. I mean, trying to convince a user to download a second delivery app when the first one already has all their credit card info and favorite order saved,
Right.
that is a massive uphill battle.
It is nearly impossible. The natural equilibrium of a market driven by strong network effects is consolidation. A few massive winners take all.
So it's basically a monopoly game.
In a sense. And once that dominance is achieved, the power dynamic fundamentally shifts. The platform ceases to be just a helpful matchmaker and becomes the ultimate gatekeeper.
The gatekeeper.
Right.
Because once they have all the customers, they have what economists refer to as market power.
Exactly. Market power is the ability of a firm to profitably raise the market price of a good or service over marginal cost.
Whoa, stop right there. Marginal cost. We need to translate that into English for a second.
Fair enough, yeah.
Are you saying they can charge way more than it actually costs them to run their servers and pay the delivery driver?
Put simply, yes. Marginal cost is the actual cost of producing one additional unit of a service. In this case, processing one more order.
Right.
The cost of a server transmitting the data of your coffee order is fractions of a penny. The cost of the driver is higher, of course, but the fees the platform charges go far, far beyond covering those raw operational expenses.
Because they can.
Because the cafes are now entirely dependent on the platform for visibility, and the customers are relying on it for daily convenience. The platform doesn't have to compete on price anymore.
That is wild.
Yeah, the cafes are competing for survival on the platform's turf.
And this brings us right to the HOW of those eye-watering fees. Looking through the restaurant industry reports we have, it's not just a flat, simple delivery charge, is it?
No, not at all.
The platform extracts value through multiple overlapping layers. First, they charge the cafe a high commission fee on the food itself.
Right, which we talked about.
Then they charge the customer a delivery service fee, sometimes a small order fee. But the craziest part to me is the promotion costs.
Yes. The algorithm.
Yeah, explain how the algorithm actually works here, because this isn't just an alphabetical list of restaurants, right?
Far from it. The visibility on these apps is often driven by an auction-like system.
An auction, really?
Yes. If a cafe wants to actually show up at the top of the search results when you type in coffee, they can't just rely on having the best reviews. They have to pay an extra premium to the platform just to be seen.
Here's where it gets really interesting. So it's like paying the bouncer to let you skip the line at that digital nightclub.
It is very much like that. And if your competitor down the street is paying the bouncer, well, you have to pay the bouncer too.
Otherwise, you're invisible.
Exactly. Or you get pushed to the bottom of the list where no customer will ever scroll.
Which brings us back to the core mystery. If it's so expensive, If the fees are 30%, if you have to bid against your neighbors just to be seen, why not just print a stack of paper menus, drop them in the neighborhood mailboxes, and tell people to call you directly?
It sounds like the logical move.
Yeah. In a normal market, if a supplier raises their prices to an absurd level, you walk away.
But as we just established, this isn't a normal market. The network effects killed off the alternatives.
Right.
The reason they can't leave is due to the mechanics of switching costs. In this context, leaving the app doesn't just mean saving 20% on your orders.
What does it mean?
Leaving means a total immediate loss of access to a massive centralized customer base. It means your digital foot traffic completely evaporates overnight.
But couldn't a cafe just build their own independent app? Like hire a freelance developer or something?
Think about the mechanics of doing that. Building an app isn't just about hiring a coder. It's about data and user habits.
Oh, right. The data.
The dominant platform knows exactly when you order, what you like, and they send you a push notification right at 11:45 a.m. when you are starting to get hungry.
They really do. It's a little creepy, honestly.
It is, and a local cafe doesn't have an engineering team to build that predictive algorithm. They don't have the capital to hire their own fleet of insured drivers.
Good point.
And more importantly, they have to convince you, the customer, to download a dedicated app just for their specific coffee instead of using the central app where you can also get tacos, burgers, and groceries.
Yeah, the friction of that is monumental. No one wants 50 different restaurant apps on their phone.
Exactly.
So for a small or medium-sized independent business, quitting the dominant app could quite literally mean losing their primary stream of revenue entirely. The industry reports make this explicitly clear, right? Cafes stay on these platforms not because they are happy with the arrangement, but because it is absolutely necessary for their continued existence.
The platform has transitioned from being a luxury to being essential infrastructure, much like electricity or water. You just can't run a business without them.
This is an enormous aha moment for me. When you look at the flow of money, these platforms are effectively levying a private tax on local economies.
A private tax. That's an interesting way to put it.
Think about it. 10 years ago, if I bought a $12 lunch, that money stayed in my neighborhood. It went to the cafe owner, the local staff, maybe a local delivery kid.
Right.
Now, 30% of that transaction is being extracted, pulled out of my local neighborhood, and sent to a tech company headquarters in Silicon Valley or wherever. It's a massive wealth transfer disguised as a convenience fee.
That concept of a private tax is a very sharp way of framing the friction involved. And it brings us to the core tension at the heart of our deep dive today.
The big debate.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are looking at a central debate in modern economics. And we need to look at both sides of this argument impartially, exactly as the economic papers lay it out.
Okay, lay it out for us. What are the two sides?
The debate is this. Are these platforms actively exploiting their market power to extract that private tax? Or are they simply charging a premium for providing a service that has real, undeniable value?
Well, I can hear people listening to this right now rolling their eyes saying, value. They charge me a $4 delivery fee, a $3 service fee, a $2 small order fee, and my food still arrives 40 minutes later and cold.
It's true, the consumer frustration is very real.
It's so hard to feel the value when you're getting nickel and dimed on both ends.
Absolutely. But let's look at the argument for value from an economic standpoint. Platforms provide a massive reduction in what economists call search costs.
Search costs,
Yeah.
meaning the effort it takes to find what I want.
Precisely.
Mm.
Before these apps, if you wanted to find a new local cafe, you had to physically walk around or look through a phone book or hope you stumbled across a review on a separate website.
Right, the dark ages.
Yeah, you didn't know their hours, you didn't have their menu in front of you, and you certainly couldn't pay seamlessly with a single thumbprint.
That is true. It used to be a hassle.
The platform aggregates all of that. It organizes a chaotic, fragmented physical world into a neat, highly convenient digital menu.
I see the argument. And for the cafe, it theoretically provides them with customers they never would have reached otherwise.
Exactly.
Someone living 3 miles away who never walks past their storefront is suddenly a regular customer because the app connected them. That is real expansion.
It is. Plus, the logistics of coordinating a driver to arrive exactly when the food is hot and tracking them via GPS to your door is a genuinely complex, valuable technological achievement.
Yeah, building that from scratch is no joke.
The platforms argue that maintaining that infrastructure is wildly expensive, which justifies the fees.
But here is where I have to push back a little bit.
Go for it.
Even if we accept that reducing search costs and providing the logistics network has value, shouldn't that fee cap out at some point?
What do you mean by cap out?
Like, if I order $100 worth of coffee and pastries for an office meeting, did the app really provide $30 worth of value just by transmitting the data of my order and sending one driver?
Ah, I see what you're saying.
Is that 30% cut really a fair price for simply pointing me in the right direction? Or is that just the result of a platform knowing no one else is around to offer me a better deal?
That is the exact point of contention in these market analyses. The counterargument to the value proposition is deeply concerning.
Let's hear it.
The high dependency we just discussed, the fact that the cafe is essentially held hostage by switching costs and network effects, gives the platform incredibly strong pricing power in a landscape with virtually no competition.
Right, because there's nowhere else to go.
Exactly. When there is no legitimate threat of a restaurant leaving for a competitor, the platform has very little incentive to keep their fees tied to the actual cost of the service.
So the market is basically broken. If they know you can't afford the moving trucks, the digital landlord can just keep jacking up the rent.
Well, whether the market is broken or just operating under a new set of digital rules is the frontier of antitrust and market regulation discussions globally.
It's all uncharted territory.
It really is. Modern economics does not have a simple, universally agreed-upon answer to this yet.
Because the old rules of economics were built for factories and physical goods. They were built to regulate companies that made steel or railroads, not companies whose entire product is a matchmaking algorithm.
Which brings us to the ultimate synthesis of what we've covered today from all these sources. Delivery platforms show us the exact blueprint of how modern digital markets work.
Okay, let's break down that blueprint.
First, they leverage two-sided markets to connect different users, often subsidizing the cost early on.
Right, handing out the coupons to get people in the door.
Second, they use network effects to create an overwhelming dominance, a gravitational pull that crushes small competition.
The snowball effect.
Exactly. Third, once that dominance is established, the massive switching costs and data advantages lock both the participants, the businesses, and the consumers into the ecosystem.
The trap snaps shut.
And finally, that locked-in market power allows for higher, highly engineered pricing systems like those auction fees we talked about.
It's wild. They don't just participate in the market. They don't just set up a stall in the town square.
No, they don't.
They buy the town square, build a massive wall around it, and chart admission at the gate for anyone who wants to sell or buy anything inside.
The key takeaway from all this research is that these platforms dominate because they create and control the very environment in which trade happens.
Wow.
In the traditional economy, power came from producing the best product. You baked the best croissant, you won the local market. But in modern economics, power doesn't just come from products anymore. It comes from controlling the connections between people.
Controlling the connections. It's a fundamental tectonic shift in how we think about business. And I really want you to think about this the next time you pick up your phone.
It really changes your perspective.
It does. Every time you open that delivery app, scroll through your local options and tap order, you aren't just buying lunch.
Right.
You are actively participating in a complex, invisible web of market power, network effects, and switching costs. It's a system where both the businesses making the food and the consumers eating it are deeply locked in.
Totally locked in.
We're all just navigating an ecosystem entirely governed by a digital middleman who extracts a toll on every single interaction.
And as we've seen through the mechanics of this market, once that platform becomes essential to a local economy, the choice to simply walk away becomes nothing more than a theoretical illusion.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder on your own the next time you hear about another disruptive app promising to change the way we shop, eat, or live.
It's a good question to ask.
If true economic power now comes primarily from controlling the connections between us, rather than actually creating the physical products we consume, what happens when every physical brick-and-mortar business in our entire world becomes completely dependent on a digital toll booth just to reach the customer standing right down the street?
That brings us to the end of today's episode of Simply Economics. We hope this discussion helped make today's economic concept clearer and more relevant to real life. If you found this episode useful, feel free to share it with others who are interested in understanding economics beyond the textbook. You can find Simply Economics on YouTube, Spotify, and Podbean. In our next episode, we'll continue exploring how economic theory applies to everyday decisions and real-world markets. Thanks for listening, And we'll see you next time on Simply Economics.